Without much further ado, let's welcome Dr. Sabir and Dr. Linz.
Thank you. Ready then? Thank you very much, Dr. Rommel, for introducing us.
Yeah. Okay. Login.
Yeah.
Login.
Yeah. I'll just do. So I'm Linzi Kemp, and this is Dr. Sabir Haque from the American University of Ras Al Khaimah. We also work closely with a colleague, Dr. Bryn Holmes, who is the head of our Centre for Teaching and Learning. And what we're going to talk to you about today, very briefly, is about our conversion to an EMBA online program, with an emphasis very much so on collaboration. And notice that myself, Dr. Sabir, and Dr. Bryn are from very different disciplines, but we came together to introduce technology, pedagogical approaches, and the content knowledge that was needed in order to convert an EMBA content through to a blended program. So I'm going to give you now an overview of the course, and I do just need to go live into the course, because I want to show you such facets as the framework for the course, in order to show you that the environment needs to be of such that students can actually work out in each course how to work their way through the course. Because obviously what we do not want, and what we realized was important, was a situation where each course, the layout was different, and that means the instructor would have to be giving instructions to the student, and they are the content professionals. So I'm taking you now over to Blackboard. The reason that we used Blackboard was because mainly that was the previous learning management system that the students had used. So they were actually very au fait with that environment to start with. Obviously, what happened before this was COVID, and they were and had been used to an environment where there was, I'll call it, some basic work in an online environment. So we set up and we decided to work in a synchronous situation. Why did we do that? Because again, that's what our students and our faculty were used to. We needed to be careful very much that we didn't launch into something that was so new for everybody that it could then have fallen into a situation where we didn't want to go forward into a blended program. Originally, what we wanted was fully online, and we did a focus group with our students to see whether what were the benefits and challenges that they saw. One of the benefits that they talked about very much was the benefit of online for them, which they'd experienced previously, was in the engaging activities that have been introduced online. So we wanted to ensure that the activities we brought in were not just flat, they were 3D. And this is later where my colleague, Dr. Sabir Haque, who's from mass communications, came in very much into his element to produce these virtual multimedia learning objects that were so essential for the effectiveness of this course. Such things as, you can see the menu here, it's the same for each of the courses that we converted. The menu was worked on the basis that we got the faculty together, and through a process we came up with an idea of what it is that we want in this navigation. And then the professors were able to fill the content. We've already mentioned in the previous presentation, thank you, the essentiality of professional development. And our colleague, Dr. Bryn Holmes, was masterful in putting together a full professional development program that took our faculty from not knowing a lot about online teaching and learning to working through so that they could produce such things as a video of introduction with the support of our mass communications. We had to ensure that our students could access the online classroom. We use Collaborate, but this is transferable to many different learning management systems. So we had to ensure that they had instructions. Other things we brought in were, for example, and I'll just show you the review. A couple of things. One, certification for professional development so that the professors could add this learning to how they taught online. And also to put on their CV, because let's face it, this is a portable CV they take elsewhere if they do decide to leave in the future. It's an added value to the work they're doing. We also ensured that there was an online course review checklist. So we agreed through various meetings with our faculty to ensure that the quality of each course was to a standard that is needed by accreditation bodies such as the CAA in the UAE. Our accreditation body in America is SAC-COC. So we combined the needs of those two accreditation bodies to create an online checklist, which after the faculty member had converted the course, and I'm just showing you this one, which is for the EMBA course, Leadership and Managing People. When they had completed that, it then went through a process of a peer review from a colleague, and then also through to me as the Director of Graduate Programs, as well as having a special needs review as well by a designated faculty member. So all these components, all these elements gave our way forward for producing a blended program. It just happens to be an EMBA in this particular case. However, it can also be extended to undergraduate and other graduate programs. I'll now hand over to my colleague, Dr. Sabir Haque, who will take you through the work that they did in mass comms to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Linzi, for explaining the process and explaining how we managed to get together. And I think this is interesting because whenever I hear about blended learning, it reminds me of my favorite drink. But it's much more better because it allows the students to have an interactive and an engaging experience. Where we came in, when I say we, I mean a few of my students from mass communication and our Center of Learning and the School of Business. So these three different components got together to really work on this idea of how can we harness video for effective online learning. And what we wanted to avoid from the get-go was death by presentation. I think we didn't want people to just carry what we do in the classroom to the same to the online experience. So we sat together to figure out how can we do this better and what are the different components that we need to bring in. So let me take you through the process. The first thing that we did was to work on a faculty introduction. Now that's the first starting point for every student. They start off by getting to know who the faculty is, and we worked on that first. We made sure that it is engaging, it is interesting. So we had some faculty who were on site, on campus, and we had some faculty who were outside campus. So we managed to get both. We had to work on a script because we have to identify a course and then figure out what element of the course can be converted into something visual. Now this is something which again is a great learning experience for everybody, because when you teach, not everything can be converted into a visual form. So which means when I say visual form, I mean getting some additional footage, getting some animated titles, also making sure that you have the graphics in place. So we can manage to sit with the faculty, figure out the exact portion of the courses which we can work on it, and then we definitely reformatted our PowerPoint presentation. So the first thing is that every faculty has got a different way of the presentation. Somebody has more text, somebody has more image. So we had to agree to a standard. So we sat with the faculty, figured out the format of the whole PowerPoint presentation, and then we went back to scripting, and then we got the recording of the faculty's lecture. Now I will talk more about it in detail just in the next slide, but this was something which we did in a manner by which we had the script, and we had the faculty to come to our studio, or we could go to a faculty's cabin, and we recorded the lecture on a green screen. And they were using a teleprompter so that there was no time spent on figuring out what to say in each slide. And then we obviously had into the post-production process wherein we synced the audio with the visuals, and ultimately we added all the animated titles, and then finally we packaged for the delivery. Some of the pictures of how we managed to get all of this together. This is our Center of Learning, and where we got the faculty to come in and record the lecture. And this is basically how a green screen really helps. A green screen is an effective tool because you can go to a faculty's cabin, it's a small setup, the basic lighting, and we can use that recording into any format, into any way we want it. We can place them inside the lecture, we can place them outside the lecture, we can place them wherever we want. So that gave us a lot of flexibility in actually trying to record the lecture from the faculty. And as I mentioned before, we did the lecture recording and we did the intro video as well. Now going forward, the slideshow. So this is how the slideshow looked like. As you can see, you have opportunities for various options. Like for example, if you want text only, and if you want image only, if you want a combination of both, if you want to play video. At the same time, we also had a placeholder. Now, this is something which I feel very, very important, which is that often what happens when you have like a lecture and you do online lecture, you see that your video comes in at the very bottom. And if you record a PPT yourself, God knows where the video goes. And it just takes up an extra space in the overall frame. So we made sure that the faculty is in the PPT. Like this gives us more real state as far as the screen is concerned, and that makes it more engaging. Whenever we want, we make the faculty grow bigger, move them to a different setting altogether, just to go along with the way the content is flowing. And ultimately, this is how it got together. This is an example of two different lectures, wherein we had a faculty who we recorded on a green screen, and we had a faculty who we recorded not on a green screen because she was not on campus. And we managed to bring it all together in this way, where we synced the bullet points with the faculty speech. We also managed to make sure that we had B-roll shots. B-roll shots are all the complementary shots that you can get to bring life to your presentation. So that's how we kind of managed to bring all those small modules and incorporated video effectively in the lectures. Now, what is the next step? Where do we go from here? Now, thanks to some of the very modest grant that we got from Mohammed bin Rashid Smart Learning, we are actually taking it to the next level. This term, we are actually using Articulate Rise 360 to do the same. Now, this is a cloud-based tool, amazing for micro learning units. We're actually looking at courses which we can actually convert using Articulate Rise 360. It requires a yearly subscription. And using that funds, we are actually trying to work with the faculty to build another course which has those small units, can be also integrated to your existing LMS, and it also can be run as a single unit. And the faculty can say, okay, this is one unit, just go through this whole course online, and then you can come back and join at a particular point. So that's what we're doing. In fact, the next stage is also, we also got funds for that, which is that we are trying immersive experience to incorporate the same in the classroom. So using VR360, that's going to be our next step. We're going to be shooting some lectures in VR360 and see how it can be incorporated within a course as an effective way of teaching and learning. So that's basically the roadmap. That's what we're trying to do. And at this point, I would definitely want to mention that this integration of different departments, this coming together, is what was the best experience overall. For the students who worked with me, it was a great experience because they got to apply all these different technical bits into something which is far more academic, and this is definitely something that they would have never done it by themselves. So I feel that overall this has been a great experience, and I thank Professor Linzi and Dr. Brin for bringing us together. And please follow us on our on LinkedIn so that you can keep seeing updates as to what we are doing and what stage we are in. Thank you so much for your patience, and final words from Professor Linzi.
Yes, it was really just to conclude there and also to emphasize that we work with, it takes a whole university to collaborate and convert a program, and it culminates in the brochures that obviously go to our potential applicants as well. So thank you very much. Are there any questions? Oh, warmly welcome you to the American University of Ras Al Khaimah. We've got seaside and we've got mountains. Come see us.